Oops, I forgot to record. I'm not very mindful at doing that on time, but anyway. So I hope everyone's doing well. Just a little recap from the previous weeks. We have discussed the Buddha's life, his early life, his enlightenment, and we looked at then the three schools of Buddhism. Does anybody remember what the names of the schools are? The different schools of Buddhism. There's three. Hi, Zodwa. Welcome.
Hi, Mark. Thank you.
Good. Yeah, lovely to see you.
Thanks.
We're just doing a little.
Happy to be here.
Magic. We're just doing a little recap. The three schools of Buddhism are the Hinayana, or the narrow vehicle, and then what else?
Mahayana and Vajrayana.
Yes, thanks, Kegs. The Hinayana, the Mahayana, and the Vajrayana. The Hinayana, narrow vehicle, where the intention is to attain enlightenment first and then help beings. Mahayana says, no, we're going to all get in together. We're going to work on this together. Even if we don't know what's going on, we're going to try. And the Vajrayana is based within the Mahayana that says we can do certain secret stuff, certain things that will fast track our enlightenment. Okay, so those are pretty much the different schools. Did you see the thing on the WhatsApp group where Fran posted the Hinayana was a little car, and the Mahayana everybody was piled in, and the Vajrayana was like a souped up Mercedes. I think that was really like, and she put that together herself, which I thought was very creative and really quite funny. So it's wonderful. Whatever contributions I get like that, I'm very happy. So that was a nice sort of visual for us to contemplate the three schools. There are three scopes of practitioners. There's the small scope, the medium scope, and the great scope. Small scope is, I just want a happy rebirth. I just want to come back as another happy human or a long life God. The medium scope is, I don't want to be reborn again in the suffering realm, no matter what. I just want to get out. My mind must live in eternal peace and clarity. Okay, nirvana. And the last one is it's the small scope, the medium scope, and the great scope. Is that we want to attain enlightenment for not only ourselves, but for all sentient beings. And the Dalai Lama is famous for saying, until space remains, until sentient beings remain, may I too remain to dispel the misery of the world. We looked at the Arya truths, the noble truths, the four noble truths. The first thing that the Buddha taught when he attained enlightenment was that number one. Does anybody remember the first Arya truth, the first realized truth? Hello, Pam. Nice to see you. Hamala. And Pam Padiachi, welcome. We've got two Pams here today. First noble truth. Prashima?
Suffering.
Suffering. Yeah. The Buddha said there is suffering. And we spoke about the three levels or the three ways that we suffer. The suffering of suffering, birth, old age, sickness, and death. The suffering of change, we get something nice and then we lose it. And I shared a wonderful video by a nun. Her name is Pema Chodron, and she explains it really well. I put that on the WhatsApp group. And then all pervasive suffering, not knowing what's around the corner, not knowing what's next, And it's interesting in my work in the mental health space. for corporates, I always ask the question, how do you feel when you think about next week or tomorrow? And 95% of people say they feel anxious. They feel anxious. Only about 5% say, I feel excited or exhilarated. And then I always ask them, oh, so you're going on leave tomorrow? And they say, yes. So you only feel like really okay about tomorrow if you're going on leave. I don't know. I'm generalizing. Maybe some of you are very hopeful and enthusiastic about the future. But generally, as human beings, we are not wired for happiness. Our ancestors were not happy. They had to be anxious all the time, because if they were happy and they're dancing and singing, then the lion comes and eats them. You know, it's like the Croods. Never not be afraid, okay? Always look around, always make sure nothing's coming to bite you, stab you, you know. And they say that to live 10,000 years ago was 100 times more dangerous than a soldier in World War II. And that life expectancy was very young. You would die in your 30s. Okay, so we don't live in a world like that anymore much, but we still have this ancient neural wiring. And because of my studies in neuroscience, it's true, but we can rewire our suffering. We can rewire our brains to see the world in a different way. And Buddhism is very skillful in doing that. There's also other sufferings. There's the 6 sufferings, really, if you want to expand on them. The suffering of indefinite nature of samsaric pleasure, the happiness never lasts, the suffering of dissatisfaction, striving for more pleasure, the suffering of leaving your body again and again and taking on another body in rebirth, the suffering of joining with suffering again and again, the suffering of rising and falling, of being high and then low, and then finally the suffering of loneliness, of being without a helper, born alone, and alone we die. So yeah, these are the various types of sufferings that we find ourselves faced with. And there's this quote here about samsara. Does anybody remember what samsara was or is? I'm giving you a clue.
The wheel of suffering.
Yes.
It's your
Samsara.
body and mind, isn't it?
Yeah. So samsara is the wheel. In Tibetan they call it kor, to turn, and the wheel turns. And we are in samsara according to the enlightened beings. You know, we are in a state of suffering because we have to get sick, get old, die, have bad days, etc. The Buddha said you don't have to suffer like that. You know, that's just it's karmic, and you can get out of that. Okay, so there's this incredible quote about samsara, and samsara has different realms in it that we looked at briefly. The realms of the God realms, the jealous God realms, the human realm, the animal realm, the ghost realm, and the hell realms. And the Buddha said that we've been born countless times, beginningless times. Okay, we've been alive. If we have awareness, if we have consciousness, consciousness cannot be, it cannot disappear. Okay, so in Buddhism, they argue that the mind and the body, even though they are connected, are also very separate. When the body dies, the mind continues. The Buddha says, which is greater, the tears you have shed while transmigrating and wandering this long, long time, the crying and weeping from being joined with what is displeasing, being separated from what is pleasing, or the water in the 4 great oceans. So he's saying, what's greater, your tears of pain or the water in the 4 great oceans that, you know, of this planet? And the Buddha said, your tears are more than the waters of the oceans, the 4 great oceans. Can you believe it? I mean, that's quite profound. Your tears you've cried would fill the oceans of the world, and it's more. I can't even understand. I can't even grasp that. The Buddha also says that all beings have been our mothers. That each one of you has been my mother in some life. We've also been each other's lovers, friends, murderers. So, and strangely, my teacher said that there isn't one patch of ground on this planet that we haven't been born in. One patch of ground that we haven't been born on. Isn't that also staggering? Okay. So it's quite a lot to get your head around, because the Western mindset is very linear, there was a beginning and then there's an end. But the Buddhist understanding of reality is circular, and that there's never been a beginning and there never will be an end. Does this? Are there any questions or comments on this? Hi, Sarita. Welcome. And welcome. Any questions on this? Okay. So this is samsara, and the Buddha also went on to say that it is extremely, extremely rare for us to attain a human birth. He brings this analogy, which is quite interesting. So there's something called a yoke. In the old days, they used to keep the cattle together by sort of a wooden. How can I explain? It's got 2 holes for the cattle's head, and then the top bar solid, and that is called the yoke. It brings the cattle together. So the Buddha said, imagine that a yoke was floating on top of the ocean, and every 100 years there was a blind turtle that surfaces from the bottom of the ocean to come up to the surface. And the chances of the turtle popping its head in the hole of the yoke, okay, like what are the chances, are the same as you attaining a human rebirth. So that was a good analogy. So it's extremely rare for us to obtain a human rebirth, okay. And the Buddha said that this is the most fortunate rebirth to have, to attain enlightenment. Okay, so why is the human realm the most fortunate in attaining enlightenment? Does anybody want to sort of take a guess? Yeah, Prashima?
Because we question. Because we can ask. Yeah.
Yes, we are, and it's like what happened to the Buddha, right? The Buddha questioned. He wasn't like, hi Antoinette, nice to see you. Welcome. So, and Mads, welcome. So the Buddha questioned. He didn't accept the reality as it is. He said, no, there's got to be another way, And I think we all have that question. We go through suffering, and we think, why must I go through this? And it's that questioning that for me is very inspiring, because we feel deep down in our awareness and in our consciousness that there is something better, and that suffering is just not what we're supposed to go through. We feel that, otherwise we'd just be kind of happy suffering, but we're not, we ask the questions. The God realms, I sort of aligned it with Thor and Odin, and what we know of sort of Nordic mysticism or other cultures where they have many gods or whatever, are in the samsaric realm, because eventually they too have to die. They fight, they battle with each other, even though they live blissful lives, but they don't search, they don't ask questions. They think that they are in a divine place. So why question? Everything's amazing. You're beautiful, you're strong, you know, everybody around you is glowing with lights, and you just have fun all day, and you win all your battles, and, you know, you're happy. And then the lower realms, like what animal realm, ghost realm, and animal realm, ghost realm, and hell realm, beings are too, they're experiencing so much suffering that they can't ask the questions. They're just trying to survive. They can't study the Dharma. They can't come to Buddhism class and learn the way out. So the human realm has enough pain and enough pleasure to question, because we experience joy, we experience happiness, and we think to ourselves, but I want more of this, you know. How can I create more happiness and joy in my life? Okay. Any comments or questions about that? That's what the Buddha said is important, is so valuable, that we have this beautiful human life. Pamela in Germany.
Mark, I have a question. As a human, are we also in a realm? Can I be a human and be in a God realm? Or a human who is in a ghost realm? Or is it actually a physical stage where our mind is?
It's such a great question. Thanks for asking that. So the Buddha said that these realms are nothing but mind, okay? That you are samsara, that you are creating these realms. They don't exist inherently. And your experience, as you know, of being human is different to my experience of being human. So it's very possible that people that are amongst us are in a realm of suffering. Let's say, for example, you know, these soldiers that are fighting, you know, the Russians. I mean, to me, that's like a hell realm. You know, you wake up in the morning, you don't know if you're going to die. Your family's been bombed. To me, that's very much like a hell realm in this life. And then you look at people like, I don't know, who's happy, who seems happy and famous. You know, I don't know. I don't know if there's anyone. Donald Trump. You know, presidents of the world, right? I like Keanu Reeves, actually. I think he's got his shit together. I think he's a cool guy, and he's Buddhist. I've sent some Keanu Reeves videos to you guys. I've sent some Richard Gere videos, ladies. He still looks good, eh? I love Richard Gere. I actually saw him in India at the Dalai Lama's teachings. He's a cool guy. So these guys are like gods, you know. What's it? Madonna and who else? You know, Taylor Swift. They're like gods because they're so famous. Everybody loves them. They're beautiful, you know. So they pretty much got that God realm karma, even though they're not in the God realm. But they're close because their mind is in a sort of that place. But still, when they look around, they see, well, I don't know what they see. Who knows what they see? Maybe they don't see suffering. Maybe they don't, you know, maybe they don't experience hardship as much. But they still have to be born. They still get sick. They still age, and they die. So that is still God realm problem. Okay, God realm problem. Yeah, Pam, does that answer your question? Okay. Hungry Ghost is very aligned with addiction. I'm actually reading a book by a doctor called Gabor Mate, brilliant author, and it's an audio book I'm listening to, which is called In the Realm of the Hungry Ghosts. So the Buddha said, if you are addicted, if you have addiction problems, you could be reborn as a craving spirit. And we all know the stories of haunted houses, you know, where ghosts cannot leave because they are attached to that house. They are attached to the life that they had, and they can stay there for hundreds and hundreds of years. Okay. Has anyone seen a ghost? No? I've felt a ghost. I haven't seen one, but I've felt one literally pass over me. It was really strange. And it was in a weird B&B somewhere in Allowell North. Very strange. And I didn't even, I mean, I didn't even know. You know, my ex-partner actually woke up and said, "Did you feel that?" And I was like, "Yes, I did." So she also felt it, you know. It was weird. It was very strange. Like all the hair, you know, it's like on your neck stand up, and it's a freaky feeling. But anyway, so yeah, Buddhism says there are ghosts, there are beings that suffer in very hellish places. There are God realms, there are demigod realms, etc. Okay, so that makes up samsara. And so depending on what you do in this life, okay, let's say you decide crack cocaine sounds like a good idea, right? So you start a wonderful journey of drug addiction. And I say that, you know, it's not a wonderful journey at all, and you can't get out of it, and you're in that place of intense craving and grasping. Your karma could then force you into the hungry ghost realm in your next life. If you are a person of extreme hatred and violence, you could be reborn in a hell realm, you know. I mean, you see the terrible atrocities that leaders cause in war. Those leaders would spend eons in hell realms because of the karma of the suffering that they've caused. If you maybe you like to hunt, you know, you go off on the weekend and you go with your gun and you're stalking animals and you're shooting them and you feel great pleasure from killing. You might be born then as an animal with sharp fangs and a suitable hunting, you know, body, because those are the seeds that you planted by doing that. As a human being, for us to be born as humans, it says that we've practiced a lot of virtue. It's a very good karma to be born human, but yet we still suffer. So there's a lot of mixed karma as well, good and bad. Animal realm, a lot of confusion and not very smart, you know. And also, you can't really compare it to your domestic animal because they're just having their best life, right? But generally, if you come on a walk with me in the Kruger and you see how animals live and how fearful they are, generally, they're always looking over their shoulder. You know that you try and approach a little birdie and they fly away. You know, they don't come to you. They don't trust you. They're always fearful. And then, so then the lower realms we've just unpacked as well. So these realms are your state of mind, and these realms are a product of your karma, and it's a product of our karma to be here. And I do believe that each and every one of us have a good connection, and that we've obviously done something together in past lives that's ripening now as talking about liberation. And it's very, very rare. And that's why the Buddha said, people that come to the Dharma, that start to question reality, those people have a precious human birth, not just a human birth, but a precious human birth, because they are as precious as a priceless jewel, you know. And it may have taken you lifetimes. Look, it's also possible that your dogs and cats are Buddhas too, right? Okay. Anyone could be a Buddha, okay? And students of mine said to me last week, yeah, but my dog is the most loving thing and it's never worrying about anything. And, you know, maybe they're teaching us beautiful lessons. So, yeah, if you are wealthy in this life, then the karma for that would be that you were generous. If you have no money, the karma for that is miserliness, perhaps not giving freely, because and Jesus said the same thing. You know, he said, "Give and ye shall receive." And the Buddha was saying the same. Jesus and Buddha were saying like the same stuff. You know, pretty much the whole time. And a lot of people have this idea that when we die, we can choose our next birth, and then. So, yeah, I want to come back as Cleopatra, or I want to come back as a doctor, but who would choose to come back as a pedophile, you know? And then I say to that, and like some people go, well, because maybe that we have to learn a lesson as being a pedophile. And I can't get my head around that. I'm afraid there is no test, okay, that we have to pass. Why would a loving father test us in this way? Okay, it's like me taking my son to Hillbrow, dropping him off, giving him $50 and saying, "Find your way home, boy. It's a test. Good luck. See you. If I see you, I see you. If I don't, well, you know, I mean, the cops would knock on my door and they'd arrest me for being a shit parent, right? So why would a loving creator being do that to us?" And Jesus said, well, it's the seeds we sow. It's not God's fault. It's our, you know, it's our doing. It's our doing, you know. So I'm not challenging the idea of the existence or non-existence of a kind and loving father, but I think there's a lot more that we can go into. My teacher also says that most of the best Dharma Buddhist students are those of us that have suffered immense tragedy and pain and loss. And through our suffering, you know, Master Thich Nhat Hanh says, no mud, no lotus, okay? So the lotus flower in India, and if you've seen them in India, they're beautiful. They grow out of the darkness and the shit and the mud of life. And then that's your realization. That's your bodhicitta mind. Okay? So some of the best students have come out of the worst pain. So smile at your pain. Thank your pain. You know, I spoke about that little birdie that kept flying around and around and couldn't get out the door or out the window. And through sheer terror of being chased by a lady with a broom, that bird was liberated. You know, it dropped down, flew out the door, and the bird was free. But it was only freed in terror because there was no other option. So perhaps we come to the Dharma with no other option, and that's okay. Then it's something to smile about. So the second truth, the second Arya truth or noble truth is that suffering has a cause. Okay? So the Buddha said, number one, there is suffering. Number two, there's a cause of suffering. There's a cause. Okay? And here we talk about karma. What is karma? Does anybody know what karma means? And I don't want the usual people. Anybody else?
Cause and effect.
Yeah, thank you. Who said that? I just had a swig of water there.
It's Mads.
Oh, Mads, thanks. Cause and effect. Any other explanations of karma? Okay, some people say action. If you've done your yoga teacher training, you'll probably hear that karma is action. What goes around comes around. What you sow, you're going to reap. Okay, all of these beautiful quotes are karmic related. So the monastic definition of karma in the Tibetan monasteries is that karma is movement of the mind and what it motivates. Movement of the mind and what it motivates. So first there's a thought. I want that chocolate donut, okay? That Krispy Kreme donut. I want it. And then an old lady comes in and it's the last donut. And she's behind you. And you quickly run in front of her and buy the last donut, leaving her with donutless. Okay? So, so you have a thought. I want. There's a lady. Get out of my way. Then you buy that last donut. And there, by doing that, you've planted a negative seed. Okay? So you have a thought, craving, I want, and then it turns into action. That's karma. Your cat's most definitely is a Buddha then. Absolutely, Catherine. It could definitely be a Buddha. So the second truth then, let's explore something called the three world views. Buddhism's all about threes, fours, fives, sixes, and lists. So yeah, if you have that sort of mindset, you'll enjoy it. But sometimes people get irritated with. In fact, my teacher is doing a book of lists. So I'm quite interested to read that. He's busy writing it at the moment. He's in Arizona. So first worldview, okay? Where does reality come from? There are three worldviews. Where does reality come from? Where does my life come from? Where does this world come from? So the first one is, who cares? Like it's called the materialistic worldview. And the materialistic worldview is like, well, eat, sleep, die kind of thing. Like it's all about getting what you want. And when bad things happen, it's just bad luck. And when good things happen, it's just good luck. And there's no meaning and purpose to the universe. And that in the beginning, there was nothing, and then nothing exploded, right? Like a big bang. And there wasn't a God or anything that caused it. It's just that, nothing and then bang. Okay? That's a scientific worldview, right? But as we know, I mean, Stephen Hawkins has kind of proved that there wasn't just one big bang, there were many big bangs. So the universe has always been expanding and imploding on itself, and then blowing out and blowing in for eons, for beginningless time. So that's quite an interesting thing, Mads, that's a good question. Does karma then have a negative connotation? That's a great question, actually. So whenever we pissed off with someone, it's like karma's a bitch and it's going to get them, they'll get what they deserve, right? So it sounds like it's a negative thing, but it's not. Karma is very positive. So let's say it's both, actually. So a good deed will result in a pleasurable ripening. A bad deed will result in suffering and pain for ourselves. Okay, so it's both ways. Karma is good and bad and mixed. So let's get into the worldview. But thanks for that question. Thanks, Matt. Good question. Karma's gonna get you. It's scary. We must think of karma as also very positive, but that's what Buddhism is all about: is how do we plant the right karma, and then how do we hydroponics that karma? Hydroponics, where you like make fruit and plants bigger, and for small thing make more. Okay, very simple explanation of hydroponics. Sorry, no, I'm not a hydroponics expert. I think I've grown some weed plants in my life, but that's about it, not very green fingers. So, first worldview, nothing. When you die, you just worm food. There's no like heaven, there's no hell, there's no next life. It's just, I'll get what I want, and who cares? I think I saw a bumper sticker on the back of a Rolls Royce that said, "He who dies with the most toys wins." That's a very, very materialistic worldview, right? Do you know people that are like this in your life? Have you met people like this? Yeah. Okay. I can see you all nodding your heads. Yeah. Maybe you're like this. I don't know. I mean, if you are, what's the point? Just sell drugs, go mad, you live on the beach, steal, who cares? Just don't get caught. A lot of people think like this, right? Thieves, I'm sure the majority of crime, thieves, this is their worldview. They don't feel the consequences coming for their action. Okay, second worldview is very ancient explanation that there's a creator being called Dak, D-A-K in Sanskrit. We call that God. But I'd like to use the word Dak because your idea of God might be different to what I'm going to say now. Okay, so I'm going to call it Dak. And Dak made everything, and Dak's in control of everything, and you don't have a choice. So if a loved one dies, well, that was Dak's will. If you get into an accident, that's Dak's will. If you win the lotto, God wanted you to win the lotto. Okay. And this worldview means that you have to pray and make a deal with God. Okay, please, I'll be good if you. What's that song by Janis Joplin? Can someone sing it? Oh Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes Benz. My friends all drive Porsches. I must make amends. Work hard on. Can't remember the rest of the song, but that's it. God, please buy me a Mercedes Benz. You know, God, please. I need to win the lottery. Okay, so we kind of bargain with this imaginary or dark person, and we'll be good. We'll be good, and they will look after me. I'm so blessed by dark. You know, that's what people might say. I'm so blessed. Okay. You know, people, so I'm not denying the existence of God here, okay? I'm just saying that this worldview is saying that some being is in control of everything, which means that's fate, right? That's destiny. You have no choice. But why to me, that doesn't make sense, because why would you then die and go to a place called hell? I was brought up, you know, my dad died of suicide. And when I went to the priest, they said, I'm sorry, but your father is in hell. You know, we can't bury him with the other Catholics in the cemetery because he was a suicide, and suicides go to hell. Okay, that's what I was told. So at that point, I sort of left the church and went to the Himalayas and went for a year of backpacking to find answers in a different country, because I wasn't happy with the answers of my tradition and my background, even though we went to church every Sunday and my dad was a wonderful person. So it didn't make sense to me. You know, why would God do that to my father? Why would he do that? Is it a test? No, I cannot think that, because then I'm believing in a psychopathic creator. You know, what's that song by Depeche Mode, Blasphemous Rumors? I don't want to start any blasphemous rumors, but I think that God's got a sixth sense of humor, and when I die, I expect to find him laughing. I used to play that to my mom and dad in the car when I was a kid. Sheesh, that drove them nuts. My rebel song. I don't believe in a God like that. But there could be a creative being, and it could be a very much loving, kind, female, male energy, I don't know, combined being. I don't know, right? We call it Buddha mind. Then the third worldview is karma. That reality is not coming from a Big Bang. Like Big Bang, all of a sudden stuff flew out and now created your face, you know. The third worldview is everything comes from causes, and that was the second noble truth that the Buddha said. Everything comes from causes, cause and effect. You do this, that's going to happen. Now, if we look around in our universe and in our world, we see trees, we see plants, we see people, animals. We see all these things coming from seeds, right? Everything that around us is coming from seeds. Every living thing. Am I right? Is there anything that doesn't? Okay. I'm not a biologist. But everything comes from a source. And everything is like a mom and a dad. And it's the same with our mind. Our thoughts are coming from previous thoughts. Our ideas come from previous ideas. And what was your face before you were born? You know, that's a Zen koan. What was your face before you were born? So it's a tough one to think like that, but that we pass from life to life according to the seeds that we plant. And the Tibetans have a saying, if you want to know who you were in your past life, look at your trials and tribulations in this life. If you want to know where you're going in your next life, look at your actions now. Okay? So this is a very interesting topic, this karma topic. It's my favorite class, actually. I love to explain this. I go all over the country talking about karma in yoga studios. So if you have a yoga studio and you want me to come and talk on meditation and you want me to talk on karma, I'm very happy to. Pam, I'm happy to come to Germany. Okay, just get me a ticket. Same with you, Donna. Okay, so the problem with karma is the ripening period. This is the problem. That's why a lot of people don't believe in karma. Prashima?
You tie karma and yoga together.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, yoga is a Vedic, is coming out of the Vedas, right? Yoga is coming from Asian classic philosophy. And yoga is a way to purify karma and to plant new, amazing hydroponics karma. Okay, so yoga is a spiritual science. And a lot of people that do yoga, they don't know. They're just like, oh, I want that yoga bod, I want the Lucy Lemon yoga pants, and that's it. But they don't realize that they have been yogis in previous lives. That's why they're coming back to yoga. Okay, so it's a very secret and very high practice. Karmically, if you do yoga, wow, then you have very precious birth, very precious human birth, because yoga is not just exercise. It's working on the inner channels, the prana, the life force, your chakras, everything, and doing yoga can get you enlightened, combined with, and I will teach you, not now, but we'll get there, and we'll see how important yoga is. It's very important in karma. Does that make sense, Prashima? Okay. The Indians were way smart, okay? And the Tibetans and Asians were pretty smart. Not to say that the West isn't, because these days the West is embracing mindfulness like they've that's what I do for a living. I'm a mindfulness coach. I would never have dreamt of this job 5 years ago or 10 years ago, but our minds are aligning with the Asian classics information. The exercises for your vagus nerve is all based on breathing, on loving kindness, on yoga. It's crazy, like to see the science that supports Buddhism. And that's why the Dalai Lama dived straight in to some of the best scientists. And they did brain scans of the monks and the nuns to show how their brains are incredibly superior to anybody else. And happier. They can literally prove happiness. So the Buddha said that our karmic seeds are firing at 65 frames a second. 65 frames, like a movie, okay? To create 1 second in a movie is 65 frames. So our reality is a projection of 65 frames a second. How did the Buddha know that, 2,500 years ago? Because if you look at the frames, I don't know if anyone's in film, but they say that it's 65 frames, right? That's what the Buddha said. Our reality is being projected by our karma. You are being projected by your karma. Okay, so here we go. The 4 laws of karma, 4 laws. Number 1, karma is definite. If you plant apple pips, you're going to get an apple tree. If you plant watermelon pips or seeds, you're going to get watermelons. You're never going to plant an acorn and a nectarine tree will grow, okay? Never. And that sort of debunks the first world view that everything's random. Because if everything was random, then I don't know, like 2 lily white people would get together and a black baby would be born. You know what I mean? Like if things were random, that's how it would work. You know what I mean? But it doesn't. We know that. We know that like attracts like in that way. So if you plant thorns and thistles and blackjacks, you're going to get thorns and thistles and blackjacks, right? So if we plant goodness and love, we're going to get back goodness and love. If we plant anger and hatred and negativity, that's what we're going to get back. But the problem is the ripening period. So my guru says we mustn't kill any living being. But he said we would all be enlightened if you decided to crush a bug. And as you stepped on the bug, your ribs started to crack. You would know what karma is, because you'd be enlightened. As you slap someone in the face, you get a slap back. As you steal from someone steals from you immediately. If that was happening, we would know the reality of karma and we'd all be enlightened. But karma is a ripening period. You know, if you plant watermelon seeds and you go out the next morning, you start crying, where are the watermelons? I planted the seeds yesterday. It doesn't happen. Okay, it takes a long time for that to ripen. So it's the same with karma. And it can take lifetimes. You could be experiencing karma now that you planted 3 lives ago. Okay? It just depends on the causes. It depends on the environment that you're in. When the causes and conditions are right, the karma will ripen. Okay, does it make sense? All right. It's pretty obvious, I think. So the second one is karma is exponential. So if you plant a seed, it's going to grow big like a tree. Little acorn, big tree. Unless you damage that acorn. Okay? Which is purification practice, which I will teach you. Then the third law is if you haven't done the karma, nothing's going to happen. So let's talk about worldview 2. There's Jaime. He's praying to Duck or to God. Okay? And Jaime is saying, Lord, I want to win the lottery. And after 2 months of Jaime praying every day, Lord, I want to win the lottery, a great voice booms from heaven and says, Jaime, you need to buy a lottery ticket. Okay? So that's Janis Joplin's song again, Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes-Benz? You can pray for stuff to happen, but if you're not putting the karma in, it's not going to happen. There was that movie, The Secret. You know, you just visualize great stuff happening to you and it'll happen. No, it won't happen. If you don't have the karmic seeds, your manifestation practices are going to be dead. I think there were support groups for people that tried to do that and failed. Because the movie didn't talk about karma, right? You got to put in the goodness. You got to put in the energy for you to get it back. And then the last one is if you have planted a seed, it will definitely ripen. In brackets, unless you damage the seed. Okay, that's what I'm going to say about that. It will ripen unless you damage the seed. You know, when I think it was in the Boer War where the English scorched the earth, they burnt all their crops, right? So you can imagine those seeds are still in the ground, but they are inactive. They're burnt. They're not going to ripen. You can do that with positive karma, and you can do that with negative karma as well. Okay. So we're coming to the end of our class. Boohoo. Any questions or comments?
Mark, can you just explain karma is exponential again, please?
Yeah. So let's say you you steal something. Okay. A small thing. That seed is planted. If that seed is not purified, tomorrow it will double. And then the next day it will quadruple, and so on. Okay? So in the same way that an acorn can produce a massive tree, you know, that will live for hundreds and hundreds of years, because it's exponential. It's just expanding at a big rate. Now, this is important because we need to deactivate the negative and we need to increase the energy of the positive. Okay? So the next class, we're going to talk about how to do that. How to hydroponics the good stuff, and how to eventually, how to remove the energy from the negative. Does that make sense? Matt?
That's good, thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other comments or questions? Pamela?
In my work, I work in a clinic, and a lot of food is thrown away, which is not eaten. If I take this food without permission from the highest boss, you can take this food. Is it still stealing? Actually, it is, isn't it? If I don't pay for it.
So yeah, stealing is taking what is not offered. Okay, and I love your heart, and I love your Robin Hood sort of, intention, Yeah, so we'll talk about skillful means, which the Buddha says, well, you know, if you break a rule here and there, and it's for the benefit of others, then, but you've got to be certain that, you know, I mean, to me, it just doesn't sound right. I think you need to approach the subject and let them know what you're doing, you know. But we can unpack
Yes,
that.
because it only benefits myself, you know, it
Yeah.
benefits only me.
Sure. You know, some people say, well, what must I do? My dog's dying a painful death. I need to put it down. Now, in Buddhism, it says you can't kill. But then you look at it and you go, but it's an act of mercy and compassion, you know. So I would put a dog down or a cat down because I wouldn't want to see, and then I gratefully accept the negative karma of that. And I think that is a virtue. I really feel it in my heart that is an act of kindness. Yes, there's a karma for killing, but there's also a kindness motivation. And karma, 90% of karma is your intention. Okay? 90% of the weight of karma is your intention. So if you took the food and went, I've got the food, you stupid boss. I'm stealing it from you, you little mongrel. Now that would be negative, but you know, that's not your intention. Your intention is not to steal. Your intention is to give. But I would recommend a conversation if you can. Thanks, Pam. Any other comments or questions, Denise?
I just wanted to say about if the food has been thrown away and you're going to take it for yourself, that's fine, isn't it? Because it's getting thrown away anyhow.
Sure, but it's not your food to throw away. If it is your food to throw away, then fine, you know. But if it's not your food, you know. You gotta find out who does it belong to. Yeah, it's a tough one. Any other comments or questions? Okay. All right. Then let's end with a dedication. Okay, this is a little secret on how to exponentialize your good karma. Okay, this is a good one. It's called dedication. It's a little meditation. Okay. So I'll also sing a little Tibetan chant. But now imagine that, well, you being here today, you've accumulated good energy, good karma by studying the Dharma, the truth, the teachings of the Buddha. Okay. So we can take this goodness and we can share it with somebody else. Think now, close your eyes. Think of someone in your life that's going through a hard time and they need some joy, they need some healing, they need some happiness. And imagine that you can send it to them. That little Buddha that you made a little home for in your heart is shining out from your heart to theirs, your friend. And imagine that you can take away all of their pain and all of their happiness. Imagine that now. Kewa di kewo kun, sonam yeshe zozo shin, sonam yeshe le junwe, tampa kunya topa shok. Okay, that's dedication. That's how to really boost your good karma. And not just for you, but for the benefit of all beings. All beings are waiting for you to become a Buddha. So don't waste your time. Don't waste your precious birth, because you never know when it's going to end. You never know when your karma is going to run out for this life. And death is really that. It's just your karma for this life runs out. Aging is your karma running out. You know, the whiteness here. This is my karma running out. You see? And that's all it is. There's no aging. There's no death. It's just karma runs out. And then the karma for the next life kicks in. And that's rebirth, reincarnation. Okay. Thank you for allowing me to teach you. I'm really grateful for this opportunity. And please come to the classes. you know, and if you miss them, it's fine. You can catch up on the recording on the group. All right. Have yourselves a wonderful weekend, everyone.
Namaste, Mark.
Namaste. Bye.